Hey, the anointed ones. You don't lose a diamond while playing in the dirt. You fumble it when you forget its worth. Have you ever seen someone let go of something so priceless, so irreplaceable, that it almost felt like a crime? Well, chosen ones, that's exactly what happened when they fumbled you. Here's something to think about. Studies show that people often don't recognize the value of extraordinary individuals until they're long gone. And, oh, how embarrassing that. Hey, welcome to the anointed ones. You know how you don't lose a diamond when you're playing in the dirt? Well, you fumble it when you forget how priceless and irreplaceable it is. Have you ever seen someone let go of something so valuable that it almost felt like a crime? Well, chosen ones, that's exactly what happened when they fumbled you. Here's something to think about. Studies show that people often don't recognize the value of extraordinary individuals until they're long gone. And oh, how embarrassing that realization must be for them now. Imagine them scrolling through your social media, sweating bullets, thinking, I really let that go. But here's the kicker, they didn't just lose you, they underestimated you. They thought they had you all figured out, and now they're sitting in the rubble of their own poor decisions, trying to piece together how they let someone like you slip through their fingers. So, buckle up, because today, we're diving into the cold, hard truths about let's talk about how they messed up their biggest blessing. And trust me, it's cringe-worthy. Let's dive in. First, they mistook your calm for weakness. They thought your composure meant you were weak. They thought your ability to stay cool under pressure, avoid drama, and let things slide was a sign they could take you lightly. They thought they could push boundaries and be disrespectful. They messed up big time by misunderstanding your composure. They thought your calm was a sign of weakness, like you'd get upset or lash out. But your chill exterior was actually your strength. It showed you were in control, that you knew when to keep your mouth shut and not to waste energy on small stuff. But they were so arrogant, they didn't see that you were just keeping your cool. You're in a space where you can show off your strength, but you're not going to act like a pushover. You're not going to react to things the way others might. What they didn't realize was that your calmness wasn't weakness, it was your strength in disguise. Your calmness meant you were in control. It showed that you understood the power of silence, that you knew how to pick your battles wisely, and that you wouldn't waste your energy on things that weren't important. But in their arrogance, they misread it. They thought you didn't notice the subtle slights. They didn't realize you were fully aware and just choosing not to stoop to their level. And then came the turning point, the moment when they pushed too far. The moment when your calm exterior shifted, not with anger or retaliation, but with quiet distance. That's when they felt the sting of their mistake. Suddenly, they were no longer in your presence, no longer privy to your energy, no longer a part of your world. What they didn't realize is that you were always in control. You were always 2 steps ahead, and they messed up by underestimating you. They fumbled, and they embarrassed themselves by mistaking restraint for vulnerability and patience for passivity. Now, they're left with the awkward silence of their regret, knowing that your calm wasn't just a strength, it was a warning they chose to ignore. To make matters worse, they realized you weren't just calm, you were deliberate. You were always in control, always 2 steps ahead. Now they're left with the bitter truth, they fumbled, someone they couldn't afford to lose. They embarrassed themselves because they mistook restraint for vulnerability and patience for passivity. Now they're left to deal with the awkward silence of their regret. They thought their validation mattered. They thought their validation was the key to your worth, the seal of approval you needed to feel significant. That was their first mistake. They believed they were the gatekeepers to your confidence, assuming you needed their praise or acceptance to realize your value. What they never understood is that you've always defined your own worth, and their opinion of you was nothing more than background noise. To them, it must have been confusing. You didn't bend to their standards or scramble for their recognition like so many others had. Instead, you moved with an air of quiet confidence, as if you knew something they didn't, and you did. You knew that true power doesn't come from external validation, it comes from within. Their approval was never your currency, and their attention wasn't the reward you were after. They fumbled you because they misjudged the source of your self-assurance. They thought withholding compliments, playing games, or giving half. They thought that if they didn't give compliments, played games, or gave half-hearted support, you'd stay dependent on them. They wanted you to feel like you had to prove yourself to them, like their acknowledgement was something you should chase. But you weren't interested in their game, so you walked away. Now they're left wondering why their validation didn't hold as much weight as they thought it would. It's embarrassing for them because they were playing a game you weren't even participating in. They wanted to be the ones who discovered you, who took credit for your success. But instead, you've shown them. Your light was never theirs to dim or claim. You didn't need their validation then, and you certainly don't need it now. They'll have to live with that, and it stings more than they'll ever admit. Third, they thought you were replaceable. They thought you were just another person who brought value, but they could find someone else to do the job elsewhere. They figured they could walk away, mishandle you, or take you for granted because someone else could fill the space you left behind. Belief was their fatal error. What they didn't realize was that your energy, presence, and impact are one of a kind. You're not something to be replaced. You didn't just occupy a role in their life, you transformed it in ways they couldn't even comprehend. Your value wasn't surface level, it was rooted in who you are, the depth of your character, and the way you brought clarity, balance, and meaning into their world. Now that you're gone, they're starting to see the cracks in the foundation they thought was there, realizing that it wasn't just anyone who brought the energy, wisdom, and calm to their chaos. It was you. No one else could do what you did the way you did it. Here's the thing about people who think everyone is replaceable. They don't understand the concept of uniqueness until it's gone. They don't see the rarity of what they had until they're left with limited options that fall short every time. That's where they are now. They're fumbling through connections, trying to find even a shadow of what you offered, and coming up empty. They're embarrassed because they're finally realizing what they lost. They let go of something they can't replace. Now they have to deal with the fact that they treated a diamond like a pebble. There's no going back. That's the kind of regret that lingers, and it's all their own doing. Number 4, they didn't recognize your aura's value. They didn't recognize the value of your aura because they didn't understand. They're embarrassed because they're finally realizing what they lost. They let go of something they can't replace, and now they have to deal with the fact that they treated a diamond like a pebble. There's no going back. That's the kind of regret that lingers, and it's all on them. Number 4, they didn't recognize your aura's value. They didn't recognize the value of your aura because they didn't understand the depth of what they were experiencing. Your energy is magnetic, a rare force that draws people in without effort. It's not something you can fake or replicate. It's an innate quality that radiates from your very being. They were drawn to it, captivated, even, but they misjudged it entirely. To them, it was just charisma, something surface level they could take lightly or dismiss as a fleeting attraction. But your aura? It's not just about charm or presence. It's the energy that changes the atmosphere and you walk into a room. It's the way people feel understood, seen, and inspired in your presence without you saying much at all. It's the way you carry wisdom, strength, and authenticity that others crave but rarely encounter. They couldn't quite put their finger on what made you so different, and instead of appreciating it, they didn't appreciate it. Now that you're gone, they're dealing with the emptiness you left behind. That magnetic pull is gone, and they're left with a sense of loss. They didn't just lose a connection, they lost something rare and irreplaceable. They're starting to see the difference between fleeting charisma and the energy you brought to their life. Their embarrassment lies in their short-sightedness. They had something extraordinary in front of them, but instead of valuing it, they assumed it was just another temporary spark. Now they're left chasing shadows, searching for something they'll never find again. Your aura wasn't superficial, it was a gift, and they let it slip through their fingers without even knowing what they had. Number 5, they underestimated your resilience. They underestimated your resilience because they mistook your sightedness. They had something extraordinary in front of them, but instead of valuing it, they assumed it was just another temporary spark. Now they're left chasing shadows, searching for something they'll never find again. Your aura wasn't superficial, it was a gift, and they let it slip through their fingers without even knowing what they had. Number 5, they underestimated your resilience. They underestimated your resilience because they mistook your silence and grace for fragility. They thought that by withdrawing their support, throwing obstacles your way, or creating chaos in your life, they could bring you down. In their mind, you depended on their presence, approval, or assistance to succeed. But the truth is, you've never been one to rely on anyone's help to thrive. What they didn't understand is that your strength comes from within. Again, you've faced challenges before, some far greater. You've faced challenges before, some of which were even worse, and you've always bounced back stronger. So, when they tried to mess you up, they didn't expect the results. Instead of falling apart, you soared to new heights. Instead of breaking, you became unstoppable. And now, as they watch you thrive without them, they're realizing how they messed up. Their embarrassment comes from realizing that their influence was never as big as they thought. They thought they were a cornerstone in your life, but you've proven they were nothing more than a temporary chapter. The obstacles they placed in your path became stepping stones, and the support they took away only revealed your ability to build yourself up. Now they're forced to watch from the sidelines as you soar beyond their reach, and they're left wondering how they could have underestimated someone so resilient and self. They thought they were important to you, but you've shown that they were just a part of your life that didn't matter in the long run. The problems they caused you became stepping stones. The support they took away just showed that you can get past hard times. Now they're watching from the sidelines as you do better than they did. They're wondering how they could have thought you were weak. Their attempts to stop you just made you stronger. They're embarrassed, and they know it. They thought they could break you, but they just made you stronger and more successful. They thought you were foolish for forgiving them. They couldn't understand how you could let go of your anger and move forward when you forgave them for their past mistakes. They thought it was a sign that you were weak or didn't know how to stand up for yourself. What they didn't understand is that forgiveness doesn't mean you don't see their actions. You saw the truth, and their attempts to mess with you only made you stronger. Lies, the manipulation, the disrespect, you simply chose not to let it consume you. Forgiving them wasn't about excusing their behavior. It was about freeing yourself from the weight of their wrongs. But in their arrogance, they believed it was a sign they could keep pushing, keep playing their games, and you'd continue to let it slide. Now they're haunted by the realization that they overplayed their hand. They thought your forgiveness was endless, but it wasn't. It was a one-time thing. They thought they could just manipulate you and disrespect you and you'd still forgive them. But you didn't. You forgave them, but you also set boundaries. They thought you'd never let them off the hook, that you'd always be there to take it back. But you weren't. You didn't lash out or seek revenge. You just withdrew. And that's what stings the most. They lost access to you without a fight, left to face the consequences of their actions alone. Their regret grows every day because they now understand that your forgiveness wasn't. Time offered you a gift, but you didn't take advantage of it. They thought you were naive, and they mistook your forgiveness for weakness. They didn't realize that your forgiveness had boundaries. When those boundaries were crossed, you didn't lash out or seek revenge. You simply withdrew. That's what stings the most. They lost access to you without a fight, and they had to face the consequences of their actions alone. Their regret grows every day because they now understand that your forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was strength, the kind they could never match. Now that mercy is off the table, they're left with the cold reality that they'll never find anyone else who would have given them the grace you did. That privilege is gone, and so are you. Number 7, they never imagined you'd outgrow them. They never imagined you'd outgrow them because they had you boxed into a version of yourself that fit their comfort. They thought they knew who you were. What? Weakness? It was strength, the kind they could never match. Now that they've got no more mercy, they're stuck with the cold reality that they'll never find anyone else who would have given them the grace you did. That privilege is gone, and so are you. Number 7, they never imagined you'd outgrow them. They never imagined you'd outgrow them because they had you boxed into a version of yourself that fit their comfort zone. They thought they knew who you were, what you were capable of, and where your life would go. In their minds, you'd always stay within their reach, dependent on their validation or approval, playing small to fit the image they crafted for you. What they didn't anticipate was your evolution, your refusal to stay confined by anyone else's expectations. As you grew, you didn't just change, you transformed. You shed the limitations they imposed, broke free of the roles they assigned you, and redefined yourself. You had it in you to become something great, but they couldn't see that because they were so busy underestimating you. They were so focused on controlling a version of you that no longer exists. Now, as they watch you rise, surpassing the boundaries they set and the heights they thought you'd never reach, they're left stunned. Their embarrassment isn't just about your success, it's about the role they played in holding you back. They realize they were never prepared for your growth. You did it on your own terms. They didn't see it coming because they were too busy underestimating you. They were so focused on controlling a version of you that no longer exists. Now, they're watching you rise, surpassing the boundaries they set and the heights they thought you'd never reach. They're stunned. Their embarrassment isn't just about your success. It's about the role they played in holding you back. They were never prepared for your growth. They never had the right tools for the job. Now, they're watching from the sidelines, grappling with the bitter truth. They were so focused on keeping you small that they failed to see the potential you always had. You've outgrown not just their expectations, but their entire worldview. Where they saw limitations, you saw opportunities. Where they doubted, you believed. And now, their embarrassment is compounded by the fact that they could have been part. They're watching from the sidelines now, grappling with the bitter truth. They were so focused on keeping you small that they failed to see your potential. You've outgrown their expectations and their worldview. Where they saw limitations, you saw opportunities. And now, they're embarrassed because they could have been part of your journey, but they're stuck watching from the past as you rise to levels they never imagined. Number 8, they projected their insecurities onto you. They projected their insecurities onto you because facing their own fears and doubts was too much for them to handle. You became their scapegoat, the person they blamed for feelings they didn't want to acknowledge within themselves. Instead of admiring your strength, your potential, and they saw you as a threat because you were more successful than they were. They didn't like the way your confidence made them look bad. They thought it was easier to make you doubt yourself than to improve themselves. So they made you doubt yourself, criticized you, and tried to make you question your value. They treated you as if you were the problem when, in reality, they were the ones with problems. They were dealing with their own issues. Their plan was simple: if they could shake your confidence, they wouldn't have to deal with their own inadequacies. But here's the twist: they failed. And no matter how hard they tried to transfer their insecurities onto you, you didn't let it stick. You saw through their games and refused to carry the weight of their issues. Instead, you continued to grow, evolve, and thrive while they stayed stuck in the same cycle of self-doubt and avoidance. Now they're stuck realizing that their behavior wasn't about you at all. It was always about their own unresolved struggles, and their attempts to bring you down only exposed their own fragility. Their embarrassment comes from understanding that while they wasted time projecting their fears onto you, you were busy proving that those fears had no power over you, and that's a truth they can't escape. Number 9. They weren't ready for your growth. They weren't ready for your glow up. They never thought you'd really step into your full potential. They only knew the version of you that was still learning, growing, and figuring things out. They thought you'd always be the same, so they overlooked you or took you for granted. But every challenge you faced, every setback you endured, made you grow. Now you've become unrecognizable in the best way. You've stepped into your power, and you're radiating confidence, strength, and self-assuredness. Your growth wasn't just physical, it was mental, emotional, and spiritual too. You've elevated yourself in ways they never imagined, and it's shaken their perception of who you are. They're left wondering how they missed the signs, how they overlooked the potential that was always there, waiting to shine. Their regret runs deep because you've come a long way, and they couldn't see that you were destined for greatness. They didn't invest in your growth because they were too busy thinking about the past. Now they're watching from the sidelines, realizing they totally misjudged you. You've become this amazing person, and they're seeing your glow. Your glow-up isn't just about your resilience. It's a reminder that you don't need anyone's validation to thrive. You did this on your own terms, at your own pace, and the results speak for themselves. Their embarrassment is rooted in the fact that they could have been part of your journey, but they chose not to see your worth. Now, they're left regretting that they only knew the version of you that was still growing. While you've risen to heights they could never reach. Number 10. They thought you'd always be around. They thought you'd always be around because they took your presence for granted. They thought you'd always be there when they needed you. They thought they could come and go from your life whenever they wanted. They'd come by for a quick energy boost or support, and then they'd disappear when they didn't need you anymore. They didn't consider that you have your limits too. They didn't think you'd ever leave, and they didn't think you'd ever stop giving them your time and energy. They thought they could always count on you, but you weren't going to always be there for them. You were there for them when they needed you, and then you'd stop. You'd give them your time and energy, and then you'd leave. You were always there for them, but they didn't think you'd ever stop. Then, one day, you stopped. You stopped giving them your time and energy. You stopped being there for them. They were surprised. They didn't realize that you're not always available. You're a privilege. When you stopped being there for them, they were caught off guard. They had come to rely on you, and they didn't realize that you'd stop. They had come to rely on you without even thinking about it. But now you're not a regular part of their life, and they're feeling the absence more than they ever thought they would. They're embarrassed by how they took you for granted, using your time and energy like it was something they could just take from you whenever they wanted. Now they're left trying to figure out how to move forward without you. They're scrambling to get back in your good graces. They're forced to face the reality that your presence isn't guaranteed and that by taking you for granted, they've lost the privilege of having you in their lives. What once seemed like a sure thing is now gone, and they're left wondering how they ever mistook your generosity for something permanent. Number 11. They thought you needed them to succeed. They thought you needed them to succeed because they believed their support, their opinions, or their resources were essential to your progress. They figured that without their guidance or validation, you wouldn't get very far. Whether it was their expertise, their connections, or simply the idea that you were somehow dependent on them, they were convinced you couldn't make it without them. They basked in the illusion that they held some sort of power over you. Of key to your success. But here's the twist, you didn't need any of it. You proved that your success was never about relying on others. It was always about your own drive, talent, and relentless ambition. You built your achievements with your own hands, and you did it on your own terms. Every milestone you reached was fueled by your inner strength, your discipline, and your refusal to be held back by anyone's. Now, they're trying to figure out how you did it without all that external support. They thought you needed their help, but you did it all yourself. You were the key to your own success. You showed them that you didn't need anyone to be successful. You did it your way, on your terms, and you did it with your own drive, talent, and ambition. You reached your goals because you had the inner strength and discipline to keep going, no matter what. You created something amazing without all the extra stuff they thought was necessary. They saw you achieve greatness, and they realized that you had it within you all along. They watched in disbelief as you achieved greatness on your own. They realized too late that their limitations, they're now dealing with the fact that you made something amazing, something real, without all the extras they thought were necessary. The very resources they thought were crucial to your success were just distractions compared to the power you already had inside you. They watched in disbelief as you achieved greatness on your own, realizing too late that their contributions were never the deciding factor. Their embarrassment stings because they can no longer hold that perceived power over you. They thought you needed them, but in reality, you only needed yourself. And now, as you continue to rise, they're left to deal with the fact that they were never the key to your success. They were just a small part of a bigger picture you were already creating all along. Number 12. It really stings that they never believed you'd walk away so easily. They never thought you'd walk away so easily. It really stings that they thought they had a hold on you. They thought you'd always stay, no matter how poorly they treated you or how little effort they put in. They thought you'd hesitate, second-guess yourself, or at least hold on to the connection out of fear of losing it. But when the time came, you didn't bat an eye. You left without the drama, without the back and forth, and certainly without the emotional. They thought you were their anchor, but you just walked away. They were shocked by how easily you left, and not just because you left. You didn't beg, you didn't explain, and you didn't say goodbye. They thought you were always going to be there, but you weren't. You were always there for them, and they couldn't believe you just left. They thought you were special and couldn't be replaced, but you left without a second thought. They finally see just how expendable they really were. What's even more embarrassing is that they never saw it coming. They thought you'd always be available and that your loyalty was unconditional. Now, their ego is bruised because they have to face the harsh reality. They were never as essential to you as they thought. You've shown them that your strength doesn't come from anyone else, it comes from within. And the realization that you walked away so easily is a bitter pill for them to swallow. You've been down this road before, and you know the deal. At the end of the day, the truth is undeniable. They fumbled you because they never really understood your worth. They thought you would always be available, that your success was tied to their approval, and that you needed them to succeed. But you proved them wrong, and now they're left to deal with the aftermath of their own miscalculations. The very things they thought made them indispensable, whether it was their support, attention, or influence, have only revealed how dispensable they truly were. Your glow-up is proof that you're better off without them. You've got this. Your resilience and independence are amazing. They're embarrassed that they never recognized you, and now you're thriving without them. Their egos are bruised, and they're regretful, but you're too busy stepping into your power to look back. You've shown them that you don't need anyone's validation. Your success is rooted in your own strength, vision, and relentless drive. You left because you knew you deserved more, not because you couldn't handle them. You understood that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's approval. The moment they underestimated you is the moment you began your rise, and now they'll forever be stuck in the shadow of your brilliance. If you felt the power of your own strength resonate with this, if you've recognized the truth in every word, then now is the time to take that next step. Hit that subscribe button, because this journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and unapologetic greatness are just getting started. You don't want to miss out on the wisdom, revelations, and unapologetic truth we're about to unfold together. Let's keep this momentum going and make sure you're always ahead of the curve, embracing your own power and leaving those who fumbled you in the dust. Subscribe now, and your next level is waiting. Stay blessed.